See, this is why I loved used books. You find random things between the pages. Hey guys, welcome back. I have a book haul for you today. I went to Half Price Books in my neighborhood. I told myself I wasn't gonna go, but I happened to go to Home Goods, and since Half Price Books is right next door, I figured it's fate. I might as well pop in, right? What ended up being a pop-in only thing turned into me browsing the aisles for way too long. My husband was texting me, asking me where I was, and so without further ado, let's just see what I got, okay? So the first one is Devil's Teardrop by Jeffrey Deaver. If you saw my last video, you know that I gave 5 stars to another Jeffrey Deaver book called The Vanished Man. That one is part of his Lincoln Rhymes series. This one seems to be a standalone, but I like Jeffrey Deaver's writing a lot, so I figured this one has to be just as good, even if it doesn't feature Lincoln Rhymes. This is about a machine gun attack that happens on New Year's Eve, and the police are looking for apparently a killer called Digger. He's leaving clues, and the mayor is freaking out, and he wants the FBI to catch him. It's another police procedural cat and mouse kind of thing, but that's my type of book, so I'm excited to see what it's about. Keeping with the cat and mouse procedural is a James Patterson book. This one is called NYPD Red. So I will admit, I usually try to stay away from James Patterson. I don't know why. He's really popular. I'm sure he's popular for a reason, and he writes books that are right up my alley. So I finally caved. If the book is only $4.99, I gotta give it a shot, right? So this one is about a group in New York City, part of the NYPD, called the NYPD Red, and their job essentially is to take on cases dealing with high-profile celebrities, paparazzi, all that kind of stuff. One of the detectives on the NYPD Red squad gets a case where he and his new partner, who happens to be his ex-girlfriend, need to figure out who is killing a bunch of Hollywood celebrities who are in town in New York at this event called the Hollywood on the Hudson Festival. So I assume there are a lot of murders dealing with paparazzi in Hollywood. I find that fascinating. It's almost like CSI meets E, right? E network channel. So I'm excited for this one. Another one that we have is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This book is actually one of my favorites. I read it a long time ago, but when I saw it in hardback at the store for a good price, it was only $9.49. I knew I had to get it to add it to my collection. I originally read it on ebook, and since then I've picked it up via my Kindle a few times just to reread, and to have a physical copy means so much, so this one's going in my collection. Next, we've got Ninth Girl by Tammy Hogue. I've never read anything by her before, but this one is yet another thriller mystery. You guys are seeing a pattern, I'm sure. This one is about a murder that takes place on New Year's Eve in Minneapolis, and it's actually the 9th killing that's happened so far in a string of murders in this particular town. And a couple of homicide detectives are obviously on the hunt for the serial killer. I'm not sure if it's part of a series. The way that the blurb reads, it seems as if the detectives were featured in another book, but I feel like I'm probably not going to have any trouble following along, and because it takes place in a cold setting, I really am excited to curl up with this one when the winter months come, so I'm definitely going to read it, probably not for a month or two if I'm being honest, but I'll let you guys know what I think when I do check it out. Okay, so the next book that I have is actually a little bit different. It is a nonfiction book, and it's called Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. I have heard so many good things about this book. I actually follow Rachel Hollis's podcast, and even though I'm not typically one who picks up nonfiction, she's such a great motivational speaker. Her audience is typically teens and women in their 20s to, I guess, however old. Because I'm so into her podcast, I figured I might as well check out her book. It seems to talk a lot about, well, it says it right here. Stop believing the lies about who you are so you can become who you were meant to be. So I really want to check this out just to see her tone of voice and the advice that she has to give to people. I will admit I'm typically the type of person who can sometimes be a little bit snarky about self-help, but I'm not really looking at this as a self-help book, more just, you know, tidbits of information that I could use to just, well, I guess it is a self-help book. But you know what? That's okay. So this next one is probably going to look familiar to most people. This is In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. Ruth Ware's books have been going around the booktube community for a while now. I read Cabin in the Woods when it first came out a few years ago. I thought it was okay. I was a little bit disappointed, if I'm being honest, because I love books that are set on cruise ships, and that one seemed right up my alley, especially since it is a mystery, which is one of my favorite genres. However, I couldn't really get on board with the main character. I don't know if I just didn't find her likable or dull, but it just wasn't my jam. So I wanted to give Ruth Ware another try, and In a Dark, Dark Wood was one of the other books that I did find interesting. There's actually not a blurb on the back, so let's go to Goodreads. In a Dark, Dark Wood, Nora hasn't seen Claire for 10 years, not since Nora walked out of school one day and never went back. There was a dark, dark house until out of the blue, an invitation to Claire's hen do arrives. I assume that's some kind of bachelorette party. Is this a chance for Nora to finally put her past behind her? And in the dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark room. But something goes wrong, very wrong. And in the dark, dark room, some things can't stay secret forever. So creepy sounding, totally up my alley. And with October coming, I'm more than ever into all of those spooky, creepy, thriller, mystery kind of books. So this one is definitely going to be added to my upcoming TBR list. The next book I have is This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. This is a few years old as well, and I originally wanted to pick this up when it first came out, but with me being such a flighty reader, it ended up being bumped to the bottom of my TBR list and I forgot all about it. So when I saw the hardcover, obviously I had to pick it up because it was such a great price. So this one is about monsters, essentially. I will just go ahead and read you guys the blurb. Kate Harker wants to be as ruthless as her father. After 5 years and 6 boarding schools, she's finally going home to prove that she can be. August Flynn wants to be human, but he isn't. He's a monster, one that can steal souls with a song. He's one of the 3 most powerful monsters in the city, overrun with them, his own father's secret weapon. But how do you decide to be a hero or a villain when it's hard to tell which is which? So this one seems to have some kind of fantastical element in it because there are literal monsters and not figurative. The blurb was a little vague, if I'm being honest. It's probably just me because I'm so used to reading contemporary novels that when I do read the word monster, I think of human psychopaths and not literal monsters. So it's gonna be a new one for me, that's for sure. Okay, so the next 2 books that I have are actually from the same author, Riley Sager, and I picked up The Last Time That I Lied and Lock Every Door. I have heard so many great things about Riley Sager. My husband actually listened to Final Girls and he can't stop raving about it, and so I figured it was high time that I finally see what all the hype is about. If I'm being honest, Riley Sager has been on my TBR list for a while now. It's just, again, I'm such a flighty reader that even when I am interested in something, as soon as another shiny new book comes along, the previous book just gets thrown into the back burner of TBR. So this time I knew that I had to pull the trigger, finally get his books and her books. Is Riley a man or a woman? Their books. Finally had to get their books and see what all the hype is about. So the first one that I will tell you guys about is Lock Every Door. This one is actually the more recent one, and it's about a woman who is a house sitter in this exclusive building, and she thinks that the job is pretty cushy. However, as she gets to know the residents, she finds herself drawn to a fellow apartment sitter. Now, apparently this woman who she does befriend, this other house sitter, she disappears. And so now our main character is left trying to figure out what the hell happened, what's up with this building. It's all well and shiny and cool looking on the outside, but it's clearly holding some secrets as well as its residents. Now, oops. The other Riley Sager book the last time I lied. This one came out before Lock Every Door, however, not too long ago still. I feel like Riley Sager just kind of popped up out of nowhere, and now everybody's talking about the books, and it's only been a span of 2 or so years. Anyway, so this one is about girls who, let's see, I don't know, I'm gonna have to read the blurb. 2 truths and a lie. The girls played it all the time in their cabin at Camp Nightingale, but the games ended the night Emma sleepily watched the others sneak out of the cabin into the darkness. The last she or anyone saw of them was Vivian closing the cabin door behind her, hushing Emma with a finger pressed to her lips. Now a rising star in the New York art scene, Emma turns her past into paintings. Massive canvases filled with dark leaves and... Okay, I'm not going to read all of this to you guys. Essentially what happens is that this girl has to confront what happened way long ago at camp with her and her other girlfriends, the ones who disappeared. I assume there's lying involved. I kind of want to be surprised about this one, so let's just say it's a thriller. I told you guys I got a lot of books. I'm still going through the list. Okay, so the next one, let's switch up genres actually. This one, oh, you can't tell by the cover, but it is Grimm's Fairy Tale. Isn't this awesome? So I actually got this because of aesthetics, if I'm being honest. I love a good hardbound, especially when it comes to something as timeless as fairy tales. This particular one, as you can see, well, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's got this nice cross hatching. It's a sturdy book. And let's see. You guys are all familiar, I'm sure, with Grimm's Fairy Tales. However, what's really cool is that there are photos and illustrations. Let me see if I can find one for you guys. So we've got these kind of black and white simple illustrations, and then there's actually some colored ones distributed as well. So here's one. This one is from a story called Brother and Sister. So if I'm being honest, even though this is a collectible, I'm not completely knowledgeable about all of the Grimm's fairy tales. For example, I've never even heard of Brother and Sister, unless that is a play on Hansel and Gretel. I don't think so. Anyway, so maybe I'll pick it up, read a story every now and then just to feel nostalgia and see what Grimm was all about before Disney bastardized the stories into movies. Oh, and look at that. I see, this is why I love to use books. You find random things between the pages that people left. And this one is, wow. Okay, it looks like it's a pamphlet from some place called the Heritage Club. And it dates, oh, there's no date on it. Okay, well, issued monthly to the members of the Heritage Club in New York. That's so cool. And it's actually about the book. So I guess it's not that random of an insert after all, but it's talking about Grimm, or rather Grimm's fairy tale. So it says, the English word Grimm is related to the German word Grimm, which doesn't quite mean the same thing. Grimm is a little rougher and tougher than Grimm. Okay, so Grimm with a capital G is a little rougher and tougher than Grimm with a lowercase g. Our German dictionary defines Grimm as enraged, furious, wrathful, fierce, and violent. Grimm, thus, is an action word and not a very nice action either. Okay, well, that's cool. I get a little history lesson to go with the book. So, carrying on. Oh, guys, this little cart over here has so many books. I'm surprised I haven't knocked the camera over trying to pull stuff. So the next one I got is a Mary Higgins Clark, and it's called Before I Say Goodbye. I have to admit, I love Mary Higgins Clark. She has such a unique writing style. It's very easy to engage and just absorb the pages, which is exactly what I did growing up. Mary Higgins Clark was the first mystery author that I was ever introduced to, and so ever since then, I've picked up her book whenever I go into a used bookstore. The upside about her being such a prolific author and her being around so long is that her books are typically inexpensive when I do see them used, so anytime I find one, I have to pick it up. This is the most recent one. So it is about, I probably should have read this before I turned the camera on, but you guys can find out with me. I just picked it up because it had her name on it, if I'm being honest. This one is about a woman whose husband dies aboard a cruise ship that blows up. So in an effort to prove her innocence, she actually takes the advice of her kooky grandmother, who says that she has some kind of psychic powers, to see if she can get in touch with her dead husband to find out who kills him. Okay, the last two books on my list, don't judge me guys, or judge me, I don't care, I love these anyway, are Murder, She Wrote books. Yes, Murder, She Wrote, as in the TV series from the 80s starring Angela Lansbury. I love these books so much. I watched the show all the time growing up with my grandmother. She's not around anymore, but we used to watch it together, and anytime the reruns come on, I think of her. So a few years back, I was in Guatemala, and shockingly, I came across the serialized Murder, She Wrote books at a bookstore. And ever since then, I have been collecting them. I do read them when I want kind of that cozy, think of my granny feel, but for the most part, I collect them. And so these actually were only $1 each. So if you guys care, I've got one called Brandy and Bullets, and the other one is called 3 Strikes and You're Dead. Now, I'm not going to tell you what these are about, but just know that each of these books are very similar to an episode of the show. The main character, Jessica Fletcher, comes across a murder. She does her amateur sleuth thing, tries to figure it out, saves the day, blah, blah, blah. The plots are never complicated. For the most part, if you read any kind of mystery, you can figure out who the killer is. But like I said, it's more of a nostalgia thing for me, and I just go along with the ride just because I like to see what Jessica Fletcher gets into this week. Okay guys, so that's about it. In total, I got, let's see, 12, nope, I can't count. Let's say 11. This is not usually, okay, it is typical of me. I pop into Home Goods or anything else around the half price books, and I can't help but just hop in really quick. This particular trip though, I scored pretty good. I've got enough books to keep me set for a while. Some of these I will be adding to my immediate TBR, like the Riley Sagers, whereas a few of the other ones I'll probably wait until either it gets colder or the mood just strikes my fancy. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed going through my book haul, and until next time, bye!